Hi, welcome to whatever this is.
Hi everyone, I'm Dom Griffin, I'm a film critic and you're watching the Armchair Auteur. This is an ongoing video series I do where we talk about new movies, old movies, screenplay analysis, television series, that sort of thing. So if you like movies and movie adjacent popular culture and you like to see somebody pick those sorts of things apart, please consider subscribing. I had planned to make a different video today, but I have been thinking about Bo Burnham's new comedy special on Netflix, Inside, so much since seeing it that I decided to make that other video something I'll do tomorrow because I can't really stop thinking about the special, and more to the point, I can't stop thinking about its complex reception from the masses. If you've been living under a rock, spending more time outdoors, or just, I don't know, not as terminally online as I am, Inside is stand-up comedian turned feature filmmaker Bo Burnham's return to the stage since his last Netflix special, Make Happy, was released 5 years ago. Only it's not a real stage. And there's no audience. It's not really a stand-up special. It's just Bo, in a room, doing Bo shit, for an hour and a half. Now, if I sound initially dismissive, I don't mean to. I've never been a huge Bo Burnham fan in the past, so this isn't something I would have sought out if literally everyone I know didn't already tell me I had to watch it. I enjoy stand-up comedy, but in recent years I've grown more and more averse to how all modern comedy feels like it's split between two warring and equally tiresome paths. You've got the kind of comics who say triggered nonstop and whine about social justice or whatever, replacing jokes and humor for repetitive gripes about the culture war, or, almost worse, you've got stand-up that doesn't even really feel like comedy, but in fact a pretentious one-man or one-woman show heralded as the height of comedy from people who have just never experienced theater before. The sort of thing that would lead to Dave Chappelle thinking his 8 minutes of talking about George Floyd was profound enough that it needs to be pressed in vinyl and sold to collectors. Based on Bo's last special, Make Happy alone, I had already mentally placed him into the second category, with his song-heavy, confrontational, and self-aware performing style covered in layer upon layer of self-aware, ironic flagellation. Make Happy is fun and well done, sure, but it often feels like if the Lonely Island guys were more insecure about their fame and just constantly tripped up their own respective asses whenever a new royalty check arrived in the mail, making them feel guilty about their success. If I had to choose some overlong, self-indulgent, Netflix-sanctioned, musical-driven comedy, I would probably choose The Bash Brothers over anything Bo Burnham chooses to do every day of the week. But lest you think me a hater, I did really like Bo in Promising Young Woman, and I do think his real future is in filmmaking, as 8th Grade, his underrated directorial debut, really spoke to me on a deep level. If he abandoned stand-up to make A24 movies forever, I'm super on board with that. Now, as incensed or unimpressed as I may sound, I did actually quite like Inside. It's both very intricate and extremely straightforward. It's not at all dissimilar to Bo's usual shtick of doing unrelated musical bits with little interstitial jokes and such, only here, there is no audience to play off of. He just spent a full year at home filming vignettes and trying out songs and tangents in a way that is too mannered and ornately arranged to properly read as authentic. Like, I don't mean to diminish Bo's real struggles with mental health, or to imply all the percussive elements of depression throughout Inside are all a work, but there is something to be said about the innate artifice at the core of this concept. The confines of the frame imply a useful claustrophobia that gives the sense Bo has been in this tiny room for a calendar year, growing his hair out and losing his mind, when it is almost certain that his home is bigger than the space we see, if for no other reason than we know he lives with his longtime girlfriend who does not appear once, let alone be referenced in any way. Instead, Bo has some new songs and some new bits, most of them instantly memorable, whether it's the haunting nesting doll parody of YouTube reaction videos, or an on-the-nose skewering of Twitch play-along culture, he possesses and displays a very real and believable understanding of what it means to be terminally online. This may sound weird, but I think Bo's closest pop-cultural kin in the mainstream is actually Drake, a similarly aged artist who grew up online and uses an innate understanding of digital communication to connect with his fanbase. Like Bo, Drake often seems less like a real person and more like a meme-made manifest, but the point of comparison sticks out to me the most in the way Bo depicts the internet as a literal curse on humanity, which it basically is, while having to acknowledge he is both a product of and the beneficiary of its toxic gifts. It reminds me of Megan Garvey writing about Drake for Pitchfork back in 2015, and how false the lyric "fuck going online, that ain't part of my day" sounds from a guy we all know operates a small army of burner accounts and has been living on the internet since at least the Star Trek forums. But back to Bo. I think some of the less heady material, like the song about sexting or the exquisitely realized white woman's Instagram set piece, work a lot better than some of the gesturing at doomerism and more serious topics. Talking to a sock puppet about how fucked the world is feels more like a retread of the beginning of Make Happy, or at least an outtake from that era embellished with more of the moment observations. Like, kudos to Bo for addressing the elephant of his whiteness and privilege in a self-deprecating way or whatever, but it's the poking holes at that facade that ruins the aesthetic distance of the piece for me. The more I remember that Bo Burnham is rich, the more I start eyeballing and calculating the sum total cost of all the gear he has at his disposal to self-produce something so visually stunning and carefully arranged in his own home, and the more I'm doing that, the less I feel any sense of kinship or connection with his otherwise relevant material. When he's Jerry Lee Lewising the fuck out of a keyboard dressed like Mark Rebelay cosplaying as Dr. Robotnik, singing about the eldritch horror of the internet, I'm 100% on board, because it strikes the right balance of hilarious and unsettling to me. But in the elongated third act where he appears to have a breakdown and opens up about what drove him away from performing in the first place, it feels more disingenuous than it really should. Which I think brings me to the key issue surrounding Inside and its reception. Far too much of it is focused specifically around Bo Burnham, and not nearly enough of it is focused around us. Look, Bo Burnham is a financially well-off, tall, charming white dude, so I'm not at all surprised so much of the reaction to this special has been excessive thirst posting and him growing a beard or being sad in his underwear. A project like this is tailor-made to birth out-of-context memes, spiraling further and further away from the original point of the source material. It's also, for some reason, garnered a weird amount of defensiveness from Bo fans anytime anyone has any critique about the special. TikTok is literally littered with people loudly and emphatically missing the point, while Bo's disembodied voice sings "Daddy made you some content," and it's honestly a little distressing. Because the thing that makes Inside work, and the reason it resonates so well with those who like it, has very little to do with Bo himself, and a lot to do with how well he's captured the experience of quarantine and its depressing intersection with the underbelly of social media culture. When we get caught up in unpacking where Bo falls on the axis of privilege, or whether or not his real-life experiences mirror the traumatic portrait so many viewers are grasping onto, we devolve the conversation into one solely focused on vilifying or lionizing a celebrity. Instead, we should be engaging with our own place in the vicious cycle Inside depicts. Because I guarantee, if you, like me, watched Inside and saw even a sliver of yourself in these countless shots of Bo, alone, setting up lights and tinkering with microphones, utterly engrossed in the consuming act of cataloging and curating yourself for public consumption, I assure you, you need not worry about whether Bo's too self-aware or not self-aware enough. The call is coming from inside the house. The endless Ouroboros of serving oneself up on a platter in exchange for some semblance of validation or acknowledgement from one's peers or strangers has taken hold with more of us than we would like to admit. And I'm not going to go all Black Mirror episode about it, but it felt good to watch someone distill such complex and thorny feelings about the modern condition in a digestible way. I certainly would have preferred it stick the landing a little better, or be more consistently funny, but maybe that's a lot to ask from a stand-up special, experimental and self-produced or otherwise.
Oh, you want me to be funny and make a point? Nah.
When I watched Inside, I didn't really spend that much time thinking about Bo. Instead, I found myself thinking about this goofy little YouTube channel I've been doing, and thinking about how making videos for public consumption has definitely helped stave off the urge to deep throat the business end of a shotgun over the last year. I think about how awful and addicted I had become to constantly refreshing the YouTube Creator Studio app so I could look at my analytics while I'm walking around the grocery store, watching the little numbers in the screen move up and down as a way to, think about that instead of any kind of real genuine human emotion. I think all sorts of bad and worrisome things about the state of the world and our future in it, sure. But I also think about how grateful I am for any kind of meaningful connection in these trying times. There's some comfort in knowing I'm not the only nutjob who sits around in a room by himself talking to himself and a camera about his feelings about things in the hopes that someone else is going to watch it and feel something about it, hoping it's going to elicit some kind of reaction in people I don't even know. I think more about that than Bo's net worth or whether or not he should be getting so much praise for, accurately or not, capturing something so strange and contemporary about the way so many of us live now. I appreciate that, unlike a lot of modern commentary on social media and the typical smartphone bad discourse, Bo presents these truths in a way that doesn't condescend to those for whom a stranger watching them play a video game constitutes something meaningful and nourishing. I appreciate that this special isn't as typified by moralizing and holier-than-thou holistics as it easily could have been in someone else's hands. More than anything, I appreciate what most millennials, Gen Z kids, and Gen Alpha scamps appreciate the most. Feeling seen. So yeah, do I think Inside could have been like a half hour shorter or more polished or whatever? Yeah, probably. Like if I judge it like it's a movie, I probably have those feelings. If I judge it like it's a stand-up special, I probably think it should have been funnier. But it's kind of like neither of those things and both of those things, and just as a snapshot, like a living document of what life was like for a lot of people over the past year, I think it holds some merit. Obviously there are definitely people who didn't live anywhere near as privileged a life as Bo Burnham did in 2020. Very clearly there are many people that didn't have time to sit around at home working on things or making videos or songs or whatever because they were out being drivers for DoorDash or they were out shopping for people on Instacart. Like, I'm aware that this experience is not universal, but I do think that elements of it and some of the details and some of the textures and some of the specifics I think really do ring true for a lot of people. It's just so disconcerting that so many people just seem to be latching on to Bo specifically instead of interrogating these feelings and what it means to our lives and the way that we live and the way that we interact. I just would hope that after watching something like this, people would have more meaningful conversations with themselves and one another than the conversations they are having specifically about Bo Burnham, who, like, whatever. Good for him. So I don't know. Normally at the end of my videos, if it's a movie or something, I'd recommend whether you should watch it or not, but I feel like most people already have. I'm assuming a lot of people already saw it because it seems to be being spoken of very frequently in, like, my circles. But if you haven't watched it, maybe you should. You might like it. You might think it's stupid. You might find it extremely profound. You know, your mileage may vary. But I do think that when you're done watching it, if you choose to watch it, you should think about what it makes you feel and, like, what those feelings mean for the way you live your life going forward, rather than trying to, like, unpack Bo as, like, a pop cultural entity. I'm not interested in that. Like, I really don't care about that side of it very much. I'm much more interested in what it says about the way we live, and the way I assume many of us are going to continue living until the oceans swallow us whole, or the sun burns us to death. I know that there's going to be some kind of ecological apocalypse, whichever one you think, that one, when that one comes. When we're all in the desert like in Mad Max or whatever, then I imagine there'll be some kind of change from modern living. But that's Bo Burnham's Inside. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you do that, it tells YouTube that you liked the video, and then that's good for me, because I need it. I need all the thumbs ups. And if you have not subscribed, also do that. When you subscribe to this channel, it makes the number at the corner of the screen get bigger, and that makes me seem cooler to other people who watch my videos, which is also important. And most importantly, if you have any thoughts about the special or life or whatever, you can do so in the comments below and talk to me there, because I like talking to you guys, because connection is good. Yeah, okay, good video. Thank you guys all for watching. Hope you're all doing well, staying safe, being good to yourselves and each other, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.